NewsMax Prime continues. I'm J.D. Hayward. Tensions running high tonight across the country as officers remain on high alert after receiving information that gangs might be partnering up to take them out. But several gang members are coming out saying they're just trying to protect their community.
All that about the police getting hurt by certain gangs, that's false. We're not here for that. We're here to protect our community, and that's it.
Wait a minute. Isn't keeping the community safe the job of the police? With that question at hand, let's bring in our panel. Former NYPD Detective Tom Ruskin at NewsMax New York, political analyst Larry Elder from NewsMax LA, and from NewsMax Washington, my old colleague, former Congressman Michael Patrick Flanagan. Tom Ruskin, you heard those two gang members. Is there any way that the gang looks out for the community?
Not that I've ever heard of. The only thing I've heard a gang doing is destroying a community, destroying a neighborhood, basically bringing drugs, violence, and the gang actually into the neighborhood. I've never heard of a gang protecting its neighborhood. They protect their own turf, but they don't protect neighborhoods. That's what the police departments and other law enforcement agencies are hired and responsible to do.
Larry Elder, it is a sad fact of life that gangs are rampant in major metropolitan areas and elsewhere. There you are out in LA. Do you believe, quite possibly given the vicious gang activity there, that there actually could be an alliance against the LAPD?
Well, every now and then there's a gang truce where the LAPD and some gangs get together and supposedly put together some sort of package so that there's peace. Generally speaking, it doesn't last. I agree with Tom. Here's the problem. When MLK said that riots are the language of the unheard, we didn't have black mayors of almost every major metropolitan city. We did not have a city like Baltimore where the mayor was elected with 80% of the support, where the top two law enforcement officials are black, where the police department is 43% black. This is just thuggish behavior, and it should be called as such.
And thuggish behavior in Baltimore as we see those disturbing scenes from last night. Michael Patrick Flanagan, you were elected to Congress from Chicago. We're always interested in the Chicago way. There have been a vast number of murders over the past several years in Chicago, and yet it appears riots have not shown up in the city of big shoulders yet. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think yet is the word. Chicago is, summer's coming, and it gets quite hot in Chicago, and hopefully I pray that this passes by Chicago for the summer. But police have taken a hit in their funding and in where they're allocated around the city. Some of the Lincoln Park neighborhoods I happen to know about, they have hired their own security for buildings because the police can't be counted on. North Avenue Beach has been closed several times for the first time in living memory because of gang activities on the beach. Chicago is becoming prime for this. I hope it doesn't happen, but it's possible.
Tom Ruskin, back to the situation in New York that you know so well, having worn a badge as a detective for the NYPD. In your opinion, Tom, is it more dangerous now than ever before to be a law enforcement officer?
Oh, no question about it. I mean, officers are hesitating based on the fact that they don't want to be second-guessed on Monday morning. They don't want a Monday morning quarterback by a jury or a bunch of their peers. And at that point in time, if you hesitate an officer, that can cost you your life. We know last night that there were over 20 officers injured, some severely, in Baltimore, Maryland. And we had a mayor and a police commissioner that didn't do what they were hired to do, to give the officers the marching order to put down the riots, stop the disturbances, and stop people's businesses in Baltimore from being burnt and looted.
Speaking of stopping, Larry Elder, there's a video that has caught on a situation where a mom apparently went into the melee yesterday afternoon. There we see her quite forcefully, literally slapping some sense into her son. Now, with that situation, that is assertive parenting, to say the least. Do we need more of that, at least of a fashion, Larry?
Absolutely we do. That woman reminds me of my mother. I never did anything like participate in a riot, but had I done so, I would have gotten the same treatment that this young man got. You're absolutely right. This is really about a community that lacks fathers. President Obama said when you grow up without a dad, you're 5 times more likely to be poor, 9 times more likely to drop out, 20 times more likely to end up in jail. This is about a community where 75% or more of the kids are raised in homes without fathers. There's a direct link between that and criminality.
Tom Ruskin, In your opinion, what is next in Baltimore? What do you expect to happen?
Well, I see the police this afternoon being police, allowed to make arrests, and they are making arrests, and they are trying to put down any kind of skirmish that's happening. The problem is they're starting a day too late. They should have been doing this last night. They should have been given their marching orders last night, and they should have been allowed to do police work last night, not stand up the street and watch people in stolen cars driving through lit debris in the street and causing people's businesses to be looted and burnt.
Michael Flanagan, you sit in Washington, D.C., a short distance from Baltimore. Are you concerned that what is happening in Baltimore will spread to Washington later this week even?
Yeah, there's always a concern with that, particularly with summer coming. But I think, as Mr. Ruskin was talking about, you have 20 police injuries. As far as I'm aware of, there are very, very few, if any, injuries among the protesters, which leads you to believe that the police have had, been shackled from doing their job, but more importantly, these protesters, if you want to call them that, rioters is what they are professionals. They know what they're doing. These are gang-related activities. These are people who come in from without to do their mischief and do what they're doing there. These are not the same people who were having quiet protests before the funeral. And that's something I saw the police chief of Milwaukee talking about this morning. He said, there's no inconsistency in dealing with these groups. They're different people. You need to wade into these groups and deal with them in a way that's appropriate and not worry about the fact that you're hurting civil disobedient people. They are gone from the scene now. These are criminals we have to be handled in an abrupt way.
Duly noted, Michael Patrick Flanagan, Tom Ruskin, and our good friend Larry Elder. Our thanks to you for coming back.